The moment my suitcase vanished into the abyss of the LAX baggage claim carousel, I felt the ground tilt beneath me, like the entire West Coast was rejecting my desperate bid for a fresh start. Sweat beaded on my forehead under the harsh fluorescent lights, my heart pounding as I scanned the endless loop of black bags, each one mocking my isolation. 30 years old, freshly out, and now utterly, ridiculously lost in Los Angeles. Then, through the throng of exhausted faces, a pair of steady hazel eyes locked onto mine, and a voice like warm gravel cut through the din. "Hey, looks like that bag's playing hide and seek. Let me help you find it, or at least buy you a coffee while we wait." I stared at him, this stranger in a crisp navy vest embroidered with the airline logo, his broad frame cutting an effortless path through the crowd like he owned the chaos. Jordan, that was his name, stitched on his badge, had the kind of easy confidence that made the airport's frenzy feel smaller, more manageable. He was maybe 28, with sun-freckled arms from too many California days and a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes, revealing laugh lines earned from real life, not filters. "I'm Alex," I managed, my voice cracking like it hadn't since high school, when I'd first admitted to myself that the ache in my chest wasn't just confusion, but a truth I couldn't pack away. He nodded, jotting something on a lost luggage form without breaking eye contact, his pen moving with the precision of someone who'd handled 1,000 heartaches in this terminal. "Alex. Solid name. Sounds like it belongs to someone who's about to turn a shitty day around." We ended up at a corner cafe, tucked behind the gates, the kind of place where overpriced lattes came with a side of people watching. My bag was gone. Stolen or misplaced, the desk clerk shrugged, but Jordan didn't rush off after his shift. Instead, he slid into the seat across from me, his knee brushing mine under the tiny table, sending a jolt I tried to ignore. Or maybe I didn't try at all. As the barista called out orders in a rhythm that mimicked the distant roar of jets, Jordan leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "First time in LA?" I nodded, stirring my coffee into a muddy swirl, the steam rising like the fog of my old life back in Ohio. Small town, smaller minds, a family that loved me, but couldn't see me. "Yeah, running from everything, I guess." The words slipped out unbidden, raw and unpolished, but he didn't flinch. His fingers drummed lightly on the table, close enough that I could smell the faint citrus of his cologne mixed with jet fuel. LA's good for that. Swallows secrets whole and spits out reinventions. "What's your story, Alex?" "The real one." I hesitated, the hook of his gaze pulling at something deep. "I come here on a whim, job offer in hand for a graphic design gig at a startup in Silver Lake. But really, it was escape from the ex who called me confused, from my dad's disappointed silences after I came out last Christmas, from the mirror that still showed a guy too scared to fight for his own happiness. Just a guy who packed his life into one bag and lost it on touchdown," I said, forcing a laugh that tasted bitter. Jordan's expression softened, his hand hovering near mine before retreating, a touch not given, but offered. "Well, then welcome home. Let me show you around while we track that ghost bag. No strings, just a local's mercy." By the time we stepped out into the balmy evening, the sun dipping low over the palm-lined horizon, my panic had ebbed into a tentative buzz. Jordan's truck was a beat-up Ford, the kind with surfboards strapped to the roof and a dashboard cluttered with faded concert tickets. Foo Fighters, some indie band I'd never heard of. He cranked the engine, and as we merged onto the 405, the city unfolded like a promise. Neon signs flickering to life, the Hollywood sign a distant tease against smoggy hills. "Where to?" he asked, glancing over with that half-smile that made my pulse stutter. "Anywhere but a hotel lobby," I replied, and he chuckled, deep and genuine, turning up the radio to some alt-rock station crooning about lost highways. We ended up at Venice Beach as twilight bled into night, the boardwalk alive with skaters, street performers juggling fire, and vendors hawking tacos that smelled like salvation. Jordan bought us around from a food truck, his arm brushing mine as we leaned against the railing, waves crashing below like applause for our accidental detour. "You ever feel like life's just one big layover?" he said, biting into his carnitas with the focus of a man savoring more than food. I watched his jaw work, the way his throat bobbed, and swallowed hard. "All the time, like I'm always waiting for the right connection." Our eyes met again, longer this time, the salt air thick with unspoken what-ifs. He told me fragments then, over the hum of the ocean. Grew up in San Diego, joined the Marines young to escape a fractured home. Dad gone early, mom working doubles at a diner. Now he flew cargo routes, but the airport was his anchor, a place where stories collided. "People come here broken," he said, his voice laced with a quiet ache. "And sometimes you get to be the duct tape." There was a shadow in his eyes, a flicker of loss he didn't name, but it mirrored my own, the weight of loving in a world that sometimes pushed back. When a rogue wave splashed our shoes, we laughed, the sound mingling with the gulls, and for the first time since the carousel betrayal, I felt seen. Not pitted, not fixed, but held in the pause between departures. As the stars pricked the velvet sky, Jordan drove me to a budget motel off Sepulveda, the kind with neon vacancy signs buzzing like fireflies. "Bag update in the morning," he promised, handing me his card, plain white, with a scrawled "call anytime" on the back. Our goodbye lingered in the parking lot, his hand on my shoulder, thumb grazing my collarbone in a way that ignited sparks. "Thanks for the lifeline," I murmured, my voice husky. He stepped closer, breath warm against my ear. "Anytime, Alex. LA's got room for 2 lost souls." Then he was gone, taillights fading into the night, leaving me with a heart full of echoes and the dawning realization that what I'd truly misplaced wasn't luggage, but the courage to let someone in. The next morning dawned sticky and relentless. LA sun already baking the motel asphalt as I scrolled through my phone. Still no bag, but a text from Jordan. "Coffee run? Meet me at gate 47B. Got a lead." My stomach flipped, a mix of nerves and that electric pull from last night. I showered quick, the water doing little to rinse away the salt of the beach or the phantom warmth of his touch, and hailed a rideshare back to LAX. The driver, a chatty Latino guy named Raul, regaled me with tales of celebrity sightings, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying Jordan's laugh, the way his vest hugged his chest, the subtle flex of his forearms as he gestured. Gate 47B was a hive of international departures, harried families, and suited execs weaving through security lines. Jordan spotted me first, waving from behind a customer service kiosk, his uniform swapped for a faded gray tee that clung just right, jeans slung low on his hips. "You clean up nice," he teased, handing over a steaming to-go cup, our fingers brushing in that deliberate accident. "Black, 2 sugars, just how I'd mentioned." "Stalker much?" I shot back, but my grin betrayed me. He shrugged, all mock innocence. "Just observant. Come on, baggage ops is this way." We navigated the underbelly of the airport, past conveyor belts groaning under freight and lockers stuffed with forgotten dreams. Jordan sweet-talked a supervisor named Carla, a no-nonsense woman with a Bronx accent and a soft spot for his charm, and soon we were combing a holding area for strays. "Ever think about what stories these bags hold?" he asked, hefting a battered duffel that smelled of rain and regret. I paused, fingering a tag on a suitcase that read, "Evan and Mia, honeymoon forever." "Yeah, mine's got sketchbooks, a few changes of clothes, and enough regrets to fill a novel." He set the bag down, turning to face me fully, the dim light casting shadows that deepened the intensity in his eyes. "Regrets are just chapters, Alex, not the whole book." In that moment, crouched amid the limbo of lost property, something shifted. His hand found mine, not tentative now, but sure, interlacing our fingers as if we'd rehearsed it. My breath caught, the air between us charged like the static before a storm. "Jordan," I started, but he closed the gap, his lips brushing mine soft at first, then deepening with a hunger that echoed my own. It was salt and coffee and the faint tang of adventure, his free hand cupping my jaw, thumb tracing the line of my stubble. When we broke apart, foreheads pressed together, he whispered, "No regrets here. Just this." The kiss lingered in my veins as we emerged victorious. My bag, scuffed but intact, waiting like a prodigal on a shelf. Carla winked as we signed it out, muttering something about instant karma, but Jordan and I barely heard, our shoulders bumping in conspiratorial rhythm. "Lunch?" he suggested, and I nodded, the city calling us out into its sprawl. We hit a taqueria in Inglewood, tucked into a booth with vinyl seats cracked from years of secrets shared over al pastor plates. He opened up more there, fork midway to his mouth. After the Marines, he'd bounced. Odd jobs, a string of hookups that left him hollow, until a bad breakup with a guy who couldn't handle the distance of his routes. "Thought I was done with that noise," he admitted, eyes on his plate. "Then you show up, all wide-eyed and wrecked, and bam, feels like takeoff." I shared too, the words tumbling freer with each bite, the conservative roots in Dayton, the church youth group where I'd learned to hide, the email from my sister 2 weeks ago, "Dad's asking about you. Says to call," that I deleted unread. I'm out but not free, I confessed, the vulnerability stinging like lime on a cut. Jordan reached across, squeezing my wrist. "Freedom's a process, man, but you're not alone in it anymore." The afternoon blurred into a drive up the coast, windows down, wind whipping our hair as we parked at a bluff overlooking the Pacific. We talked until the sun arced low, his head on my shoulder, my fingers tracing lazy patterns on his arm. It was easy, this nascent thing between us, raw, uncharted, but laced with the kind of hope that makes you believe in detours. By evening, back in the city, Jordan dropped me at my new apartment in Echo Park, a cramped one-bedroom with peeling wallpaper and a view of graffiti-splashed alleys. "Unpack with me?" I asked, half joking, but his eyes lit with mischief. "Twist my arm." We hauled my bag up 3 flights, laughing at the creak of stairs, and as I unzipped it on the threadbare rug, content spilling like confessions. Jeans tangled with charcoal pencils, a dog-eared copy of Giovanni's Room, dog-eared from too many rereads. Jordan knelt beside me, folding shirts with military neatness. His touch on my skin as he helped was electric, casual caresses turning deliberate, until we were tangled on the futon, clothes shedding like old skins. That night, under the hum of a box fan, his body moved with mine in a rhythm born of urgency and tenderness, whispers of stay, and "I've got you" weaving through the dark. He was solid, unyielding yet gentle, his hands mapping me like territory worth claiming. Dawn found us spent and sated, his arm draped over my waist, breath steady against my neck. For the first time, the future didn't loom like a storm cloud. It shimmered, possible, with him as my compass. But as the light crept in, so did the shadows. A voicemail from home, my mom's voice trembling. "Alex, we need to talk. Please." And Jordan's phone buzzing with a work alert, pulling him back to the skies. Love, it seemed, came with layovers of its own. Weeks melted into a rhythm that felt dangerously like home. Jordan's shifts syncing with my freelance gigs, our lives orbiting in stolen hours. Morning started with him brewing coffee in my kitchenette, strong and black, while I sketched logos on my laptop, stealing glances at the way his tank top rode up, revealing the tattoo on his hip. A compass rose, inked after his first deployment. "Points north when everything else spins," he'd say, catching my stare, and pull me onto the counter for a kiss that tasted of grounds and promise. Afternoons were ours. Hikes in Griffith Park, where we'd race to the observatory, collapsing breathless on the grass. His fingers laced through mine as the city sprawled below like a map of possibilities. But cracks spiderwebbed in, subtle at first. My family calls escalated. Dad's gruff. "When you coming back, son?" Laced with unspoken judgment, my sister's pleas for reconciliation clashing with her "I love you, but..." Jordan noticed, of course, his empathy a quiet force. One night, after a particularly brutal voicemail where Mom cried about the family falling apart, he held me on the couch, my head in his lap, stroking my hair. "You don't know them your truth if it breaks you," he murmured, but his own phone silenced more often now. Text from an ex, Mark, the pilot who'd bailed, popping up like ghosts. Old noise, he'd dismiss, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed him. We pushed through with distractions. A weekend in Palm Springs where the desert heat stripped us bare, literally and figuratively. Lounging by the pool of a kitschy motel, his skin bronzed and slick, we talked futures, me dreaming of a gallery show for my art, him musing about grounding, maybe training as a flight instructor. Together, I asked, tracing the line of his jaw. His smile was slow, searing. "Yeah, Alex. Together." That night, under stars sharp as diamonds, we made love on the balcony, the world reduced to his gasps and my name on his lips, a vow etched in sweat and starlight. It was perfect until it wasn't. The unraveling hit on a Tuesday, rain-slick streets, mirroring the storm in my gut. I'd landed a client pitch downtown, nerves jangling, when Jordan texted, "Emergency route. Back late. Love you." The words warmed me, but the follow-up call from my dad, "We're cutting you off until you sort this phase," landed like a gut punch mid-meeting. I bolted to a rooftop bar, shots of tequila blurring the edges, and that's when Mark appeared, all polished uniform and predatory grin, cornering me with Jordan's stories always in the same. Alone. Doubts seeded, vicious and quick, and by the time Jordan got home, I was a mess, accusations spilling like bile. He said he was done. I yelled, pacing my living room, the compass tattoo mocking me from his bare chest. He deflated, running hands through his hair. "He is. But you're spiraling because of them, Alex. Don't let ghosts win." We fought raw, words like shrapnel, my fears of abandonment clashing with his defenses, until he grabbed my face, kissing me fierce, desperate. "I'm here. Fight for us, not against." We collapsed in a bed, bodies colliding in reconciliation, but the peace was fragile, a bandage on a wound still bleeding. As autumn deepened, LA's glamour faded under smog and my mounting isolation. Gigs dried up, freelance checks bouncing like my moods, while Jordan's overtime stretched him thin, dark circles under his eyes from red eyes to Seattle. We'd snatch moments, a quickie in his truck after pickup, laughter over takeout foe. But the strain showed, my sketches turning jagged, his silences heavier. Then the blow. A letter from home, forwarded by my sister. Dad scrawled declaring disownment unless I came to my senses. I crumpled it in the park, tears hot, when Jordan found me, wrapping me in his jacket. "We're building our own family," he vowed, but his voice cracked, and later, I overheard him on the phone with his mom. "Yeah, it's real this time. Scary real." The climax brewed in the holidays, Thanksgiving looming like a guillotine. Jordan suggested we host. Just us, a turkey from the market, no drama, but I panicked, inviting my sister Elena on impulse. She arrived wary, blonde bob and Midwestern practicality clashing with our bohemian nook, but Jordan's charm disarmed her. Charcuterie spread, stories of airport absurdities, his hand steady on my knee under the table. Dinner flowed, laughter tentative then free, until Elena cornered me in the kitchen. "He's good for you, Alex." "But Dad, he's sick. Heart stuff. Come home." The plea gutted me, torn between blood and the man who'd become my heartbeat. That night, as Elena slept on the couch, Jordan and I slipped out to the fire escape, city lights twinkling like distant fires. "Go if you need to," he said, voice steady but eyes stormy. "I'll wait." I shook my head, pulling him close, our breaths mingling in the chill. "No, you're my home now." We made love there, urgent and affirming, the metal groaning under us like a symphony of survival. But dawn brought Elena's flight, a tearful hug, and her whisper, "Fight for this." It's worth it. As she left, Jordan kissed my temple. We will. Winter gripped LA in uncharacteristic rains, mirroring the torrent inside me. Elena's updates painted Dad's decline, stubborn denial masking fear, and guilt gnawed, but Jordan anchored me, his presence a bulwark. We volunteered at an LGBTQ center in West Hollywood, sorting donations, where his easy rapport with scared kids mirrored my own healing. See, you're paying it forward, he'd say, and I believe it, our bond deepening in service. Yet Mark resurfaced, a chance encounter at the airport bar, where Jordan drowned post-shift blues. I walked in on the tail, and Mark's hand on his arm, words slurred about second chances, and jealousy flared, irrational and consuming. The blowout was epic. Me storming home, Jordan trailing, rain soaking us both. He's nothing, Jordan roared, pinning me against the door, frustration boiling over. But you're everything, and you're pushing me away. Truth lashed out, my abandonment scars, his fear of losing another, and we shattered, words carving deep. He stormed out, truck peeling into the night, leaving me hollow, scrolling his texts until sobs came. Hours later, a knock. Not him, but Elena, unannounced, eyes red. He called me, said you need family, real family. We talked till dawn, her hand in mine, bridging the chasm I'd widened. Reconciliation came raw, Jordan returning at sunrise, drenched and defeated, collapsing into my arms. Can't lose you, he choked, and Elena mediated, her presence a bridge. Love isn't easy, she said, hugging us both. But it's the fight that makes it real. We cried, laughed, forgave, Mark blocked, promises renewed. As she departed, LA's sun broke through clouds, a benediction. Spring unfurled in blooms and breakthroughs. My art show in Silver Lake, Jordan's promotion to instructor, our lease signed on a sunny bungalow in Los Feliz. Dad's health stabilized, Elena's letters softening, a tentative olive branch. Proud of you, son. But the true victory was ours, woven in quiet nights, dinners on the patio, his head in my lap as I read poetry, bodies entwined under sheets scented with eucalyptus. One evening, atop Runyon Canyon City, a glow below, Jordan knelt, not with a ring, but a key etched with our initials. Not forever yet, he grinned, hazel eyes shimmering. But this, it's ours. Carry me through. I pulled him up, kissing him fierce against the wind. Always. In that moment, lost luggage seemed a lifetime ago, a catalyst for the love that had remade me, human and whole. We'd found each other, and in doing so, ourselves, proof that sometimes the greatest arrivals come unannounced, baggage and all. And as the stars wheeled overhead, I knew this was the story worth telling, the one that carried us through everything.